Speaking of Epiphany, the last myth is the one about the three wise men. This is twofold. We know the first myth is that there were three of them. We actually don't know how many of them there were. If you look at Matthew chapter 2, turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 says, "After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, 'Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews?'" It doesn't say how many Magi or how many wise men. It just says they came. We have assumed that there were three because there were three gifts that were named that were presented to the baby Jesus. They were gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so three gifts, three men. But actually, there probably were many more of them. The Magi were a group of elite scholars who had knowledge about uncommon things and who studied philosophy, and they looked at and they were astrologers who followed the skies and the movement of the stars and the movement in the skies and the movement of the planets. And they associated these things with human events in history based on prophecies that they knew about. And so they saw this convergence of stars that came together to form this one superstar. And they realized that it was a fulfillment of the prophecy that had been spoken about a star pointing the way or showing where this king would be born. The star arose, and the wise men started on their journey, but we don't know how many there were. There could have been a whole caravan of them. I would imagine that they would be very excited about this star appearing, and so many of them would want to make this journey. And so the Bible does not say how many, and so we cannot say how many. Nowhere does it tell us that there were only three. So we have just come to associate that with the gifts. So that's another myth that's not true. The second myth about the wise men is that they arrived the night the baby was born, and we know that that's also not true. You wouldn't know that by the depiction of the nativity scenes that we see, all the ones that are sold and or nativity sets that are sold, and of course displayed at Christmas. Even mine on my own mantelpiece has the wise men there. They were part of the set. And Hollywood puts them in the movies as well. When we see the baby Jesus born, along with the shepherds and the animals, you see the wise men coming. But that's not the way it happened. They were not there the night that Jesus was born. They came later. If you look at verse 11 of this same chapter, Matthew chapter 2, verse 11 says, that when they came, on coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary. So they found Jesus and Mary in a house. They were not in the manger with the animals and the shepherds. They were in a house. And so because the wise men came from farther east than Jerusalem, it begs the question, where did they come from and how long would it have taken them to get to Jesus? They started their journey when they saw the star. We assume they started their journey right away. Pack up and let's go. We don't know how long that took, but they were coming from the east, and traditionally people have thought, because of the word magi, that they were coming from Persia. Magi is or has Persian roots. But some people believe that Matthew is just using the word magi in a general sense, the way that, we say, what do we say? The way that we say Cheerios for those oat circles or something like that, where Cheerios is actually a brand name and not the name of the little oat circles that we eat. And so we say Kleenex for every tissue, but Kleenex is a brand. And so magi could have been being used as a general term rather than specifically talking about Persians, especially since Persia at that time would have not been the same kingdom as we had seen in the Old Testament. And so it made sense that they came from somewhere else. So where would they have come from? Well, they brought with them gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And those things are in abundance in Sheba. And so there is a biblical school of thought now. Scholars think that they came out of Sheba. Of course, we know Sheba is in the peninsula. Well, it's now Yemen today. And so it is in that part of the world, the Arabian Peninsula. And what is interesting is that the Queen of Sheba, when she came to see Solomon in the Old Testament, she brought with her some of these same gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, the spices from that area. And so we know that that area is full of these things. In fact, of course, the gold mines in Africa, where that Arabian Peninsula reaches down into Africa. It is also the boswellia tree that is in that area, where you get the gum that you make frankincense from, and then that's only native to the Arabian Peninsula, actually, and Somalia. And then thirdly, the commiphora tree, which provides the resin to make myrrh, and that's rich in that area. And so all of these items are rich in the Arabian Peninsula. And Matthew 12:42, Jesus makes reference to the Queen of Sheba and the gifts that she brought to the king, comparing it to the gifts that were brought to the newborn king. And so Jesus making that comparison makes us think that the wise men came from Sheba. Also, in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 6, Isaiah prophesies that this caravan will come from Sheba. And so we have every reason to believe that the wise men came from Sheba and not Persia, and that they came, of course, when the child was almost 2 years old, if not two already. It was approximately 1,500 miles from Sheba to Jerusalem. And depending on how large the caravan was and how fast those camels were moving, or donkeys, or whatever they were riding, it would take some time for them to cross the deserts and mountains along that route. Not only that, it was a well-established trade route, which makes more sense for them to be traveling. And they would have maybe gotten bogged down in some of the traffic of the day because of the regular tradesmen who are on that route. So remember, Herod asked the Magi in verse 7 the exact time when they saw the star. When did that star appear? And based on the information they gave him, he sent his soldiers to kill every child who was 2 years old or younger. So we can conclude that the information they shared led him to believe they had seen the star 2 years before. And that's why he hunted 2-year-olds and younger. And so I would say that we have good evidence to believe that the wise men came when Jesus was a toddler, and they came to a house and found Mary there with him. Thank you for your time with these two Bible studies. I had to split them because it only lets you record so much at a time. I hope that this has been helpful, and I look forward to your feedback. If you have any questions, send me an email or write a comment, and I will try to respond. Merry Christmas and Happy Kwanzaa. Thank you.